Dylan starting off with Cloud Post. Oh, yeah. That's just what you want to see.
Hey, that card's going to be ancient, Tim.
Now, Harlen and Kevin on the same 75, actually working together for the event.
Team deck, team deck.
Come on, Cloud Post. More mana. Let's do this.
It looks like
Glimmer
Harlen
Post.
does not have more mana.
3 mana, Sorceress Spyglass, turn 2 from Dylan. So you can cast Sorceress Spyglass on turn 2. How broken is that?
Harlen just
His
helps
hand just
him
blanks
out.
it.
Here's the activated ability I have.
Ooh, that can hit Scalding Tarn, can't it?
Oh, it can.
Oh, I love it.
And by it can, I mean it will.
It will. So that's going to... Harlen now on a 1-lander. He didn't force a will it.
No, at this point you have Brainstorm and things that can dig you out of it in your hand.
Okay.
It's much more important to force of will something like Thought Knot Seer that's going to literally kill you.
Fair enough. He brainstorms. He doesn't find another fetch land. He finds an island and casts a Delver. I guess let's see. What is his fetch land breakdown? He has 1 Tarn. He only has 1 Tarn. Wow. 1 Tarn, 2 Delta, 1 Misty, 1 Heath. He was ready for Sorcerer's Spyglass.
Well, it does not appear... Okay, so he had the way to shuffle his deck in that pond.
Yeah. Yeah, transforms his his Delver into Insectile Aberration. Dylan's turn was Matter Shaper. So see, they both have 3/2s.
Race, 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 race.
Another Delver from Harlen. Basuva copying Cloud Post. We have a lot of mana here. 3, 6, 7, 9. Here's Thought Knot Seer. Harlen will Force of Will it, but there's more mana left.
Time for some tentacle monsters.
And another Thought Knot Seer.
I see you.
8. You can't. I like this. It's still daze proof. I guess Harlen could have picked up. He could have used both dazes on it, and that would have been enough.
That is technically true.
Stoneforge Mystic was the take.
Here, Harlan's probably much more interested in turning those dazes into other cards with those brainstorms.
Scalding Tarn, long gone now. Did not. This is an upkeep, I believe, Brainstorm. So we are going to see a transform on the Delver to one of those dazes. Great that he gets transformed the Delver. Unfortunate that the daze is still in his hand.
Yeah, it does not feel very good in this situation.
But he attacks Dylan down to 13. That's City of Traders, though, not Ancient Tomb, and Eye of Ugin.
This is actually a pretty great play from Harlen if hand doesn't have another creature. Harlen can just develop a Snapcaster Mage and it changes the clock.
Here's Reality Smasher for 3 from Dylan. It is hard to race this.
That is true.
All their things they're not really paying mana. I mean, if you count
we found
mana.
a use for the days.
There we go. Swords of Plowshares was the play. It discarded to Reality Smasher. And here's another Matter Shaper from Dylan.
Oh, he took out the Thought Knot Seer because he's just trying to dig for another Swords to Plowshares. He has this Snapcaster Mage, so the extra resource is worth it.
Unfortunately, he's trying to race in the air, and swordsing your opponent's big creatures hurts there. They gain life. Dylan's at 17, Harlen at 7.
Right, and that's one of the big sources of tension you'll see for these Azorius Delver decks, is you want to apply pressure early, but your key removal spell kind of undoes your work.
Your opponent's just cast, let's look at them like mana spent, right? So Dylan we had 2 Thought Knots, that's 4, 2 Matter Shapers, okay. So 8, 14, Reality Smasher, 19, Spyglass. He's played 21 mana worth of cards already this game.
Hey, Harlen's almost at 10.
Yeah.
Mana spent.
spent total, all game. He's just playing half as much stuff. That's why Cloud Post is great.
To quote, I believe it's Remand. At least all that hand waving looked nice.
Swing in for 11. I mean, Harlen has Council's Judgment in hand. He can block some things. He did cast Stoneforge. The double block by the Aberrations on the Reality Smasher. The Stoneforge chump blocks the Matter Shaper, and Harlen goes to 3. It's 1 trample from the Smasher and 3 from that Matter Shaper. So he can Council's Judgment a Matter Shaper and die.
Well, it looks like he has a Snapcaster hiding out in his hand, so that does give him a Swords to Plowshares back, if memory serves. So he is likely going to survive.
Hold on. Now, maybe something bad's happened. Eye of Ugin. That's for the keeping count down, we're up to 28 mana spent. found a Walking Ballista.
How much mana are we going to have spent?
Well, 6 more, I would hope, right? So 34.
close.
Here's a lethal walking blister, and your Harlen can't answer it. Game 1 goes to Dylan Hand. This deck's nice. You just cast big stuff.
That is
all the mana.
Exactly your brand.
All the mana. Just if you do something powerful enough, you just don't care what your opponent's doing. See, you can just ignore them.
Oh, well,
I like that.
I'll tell you, you do like ignoring your opponents.
Yeah. that means I registered a nice deck if I just don't even care what they're playing.
This is one of the decks that the Azorius Delver deck actually kind of struggles against, because one of your best game plans out of the more traditional Delver deck is that you go in the Mana Denial Wasteland plan.
You turn into a control deck, right?
Sort of. You try to go under them a little bit and invalidate some of the cards that they actually have. But when we see, only 3 Wastelands out of this Delver deck,
right,
and you're hedging to go a little bit bigger, but their cards go way bigger than the things you're hedging with.
Now, big win, 2 copies of Back to Basics in the sideboard for Harlen Fear. I assume they are essential to this matchup.
Oh, absolutely. You just kind of have to, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
But you might end up in a situation, earlier we saw Grixis Phoenix play against the Mono Red Prison deck where, the Phoenix deck just put 9 power into play and the prison cards weren't good enough.
Right.
So you need to have a situation where you say, counter their Thought-Knot Seer, their Reality Smasher, what have you, and then jam this Back to Basics and catch back up that way to put it in a situation where hand doesn't get to cast spells anymore.
Right. On Dylan's plan here, he can board out these Sorcerer's Spyglass. He hit a fetch land, but then it got shuffled away.
Yeah.
He has not too much else to do. He can board in and hit another Karn. Maybe an Oblivion Sower. I don't know. Just
you might
stuff.
be trying to get a little grindy and just have something to do. But for the most part, we saw that game. Fundamentally, hand tends to be favored here without some sort of haymaker like Back to Basics getting involved. So he's hoping to just do the same thing game 2.
So maybe he boards in these 3 Ratchet Bombs because he knows Back to Basics is a possibility.
Right, and that's something you kind of have to check. But outside of those situations, you're just trying to, business as usual.
We start on Cloud Post again from Dylan. Harlen looking for that Wasteland again. That's the reason we don't see more Cloud Post in Legacy is the card Wasteland is so good. But so far, Dylan has been unpunished for 2 games. Just his opponents haven't Wastelanded his Cloud Post.
Right, and one of the drawbacks in this situation is it's harder to develop a threat on turn 1 and then keep up your Wasteland plan if your threats are 2 and 3 and 4 drops.
Stoneforge Mystic finding Batter Skull for Harlen. And Glimmer Post from Dylan. Gains 2, casts Grim Monolith and Thought-Knot Seer. Totally reasonable. We see Disenchant, Brainstorm Swords to Plowshares, that Batter Skull, and it looks like we have a land. And then one other card on the top. We'll see that one in a bit.
If Fear gets to play it.
Yeah, if it matters. It's a fetch land. It's Polluted Delta. So the Swords to Plowshares is gone. That makes sense. That was going to hit the Thought-Knot Seer anyway.
Right, and a lot of what you do is very similar to the Humans deck in Modern, is you build a sort of house of cards where you go, your cards are going to be fine as long as they don't answer mine, though. Mine are all going to be worth a little bit more than yours.
Vesuva, copying Cloud Post, and another Thought-Knot Seer. Harlen may have to Force of Will here. He has one in hand. We'll see.
Right. This is a spot where there are a couple of different ways that you can try to combat this, but all of them are going to involve you losing a card. Right. So you may just want to save Force of Will for some of the bigger spells hand has access to.
Yeah, he casts Brainstorm in response. He actually has found both Council's Judgment and Swords to Plowshares here, but he still is going to Force of Will it. I was wondering whether he'd try to remove them both.
Right, so there's the idea where you want to activate Stoneforge Mystic, and it kind of comes down to if you want to spend mana to answer the Thought-Knot Seer, but Fear is very interested in putting this Batter Skull into play in order to kind of prevent a wall or present a wall against hand's Thought-Knot Seer.
Yeah, gets a Germ Token and draws, so he has some pressure. It looks like he draws a Swords to Plowshares. So attacks in for 4. Dylan not going to block. Goes to 18. And True Name Nemesis from Harlen. Nemesis plus Batter Skull is pretty good.
Yeah, this is the formula to beating up on these creature decks.
However, on Dylan's side, he currently has 9 mana already.
How much mana has he spent, though?
I haven't been tracking it. Here's Ratchet. Ensnaring Bridge, rather. Another Ensnaring Bridge. Hema, we have a problem here. No one's attacking now.
Yeah, and that's probably going to favor the Endbringer Walking Ballista deck.
Yeah, I have Ugin, it's just,
Yeah.
he's got some draws to play. And now we're going to hang out. And Dylan just waiting for one of those haymakers. He has an Endbringer in hand. Taps 2 lands to cast it. Completely reasonable.
Don't make it weird.
Actually, it's Reality Smasher. Apologies here. I have picked the wrong Eldrazi. And he'll untap Grim Monolith. Disenchant on one of the Ensnaring Bridges. Does Harlen have a Snapcaster for the other one?
Oh, yeah.
I think he does, yeah.
That's what's going on here.
Look how fast he's fetching. Of course he does. It's Jace, but he's going to try to find one. He doesn't have it yet.
This could end up being a pretty rough situation for hand. You know what Ensnaring Bridge does? It lets you roll up Jace pretty safely.
Yeah, it does. But here's Endbringer from hand, so he can draw cards too. Endbringer actually, if it was still in play, it got swords here, I would say can draw cards just as quickly as Jace, but not when it's out in exile, it can't.
Right, and there's even a spot where you could just start pinging at the Jace instead. Go end of your turn, ping it, untap, ping it, on your upkeep, ping it a third time.
Yeah, on Harlan's side, we are waiting, it looks like. He's just waiting for that Snapcaster. He doesn't have, or a second Disenchant if he's boarded them both in.
Council's Judgment works.
That'll work. And when he turns the corner, it will be Swift here.
And we see him right there going, oh, wait, this plays.
Now, interestingly, Harlen has Back to Basics in his hand, but he's choosing not to play it here. Do you think he's disguising his tech for a possible Game 3?
Right. That's likely what he's looking at doing here, or just wanting to wait until hand actually taps his lands rather than letting hand know he needs to prioritize his mana.
Yeah. Not attacking yet. It's Reality Smasher in play. Eye of Ugin from Dylan hand, though. That's a pretty big one, and could actually get him back into the game here.
Yeah, Walking Ballista is a strong Magic card.
So, immediately taps 2 lands, activates Eye of Ugin. I believe there's a counter spell in Harlan's hand.
Oh, there's a Force of Will at the very least.
Yeah, so let's count. This is a lot of mana. It's going to get countered. But we have 4 locusts, so it's 12, 13.
It's Back to Basics time.
Yeah, all the lands are tapped. I mean, Dylan only had 23 mana. He picks up the cards. Can't beat the Back to Basics. But there's a bit of a win from Dylan. He gets to know now. I think Harlen was trying to disguise the sideboard card, but Dylan put down enough pressure that Harlen played it.
Exactly. And at that point, hand didn't have his Ensnaring Bridge anymore. There were just things were going a little bit too wrong for him at that phase of the game.
Right. I still believe in you, Ancient Tomb. You can do it.
We are, wow. No. We have to be impartial arbiters of the tournament.
I didn't see that anywhere in the fine print. Whoever plays the biggest mana card, I'm in.
That is one of the least surprising sentences I've heard in my entire life.
Love it.
You can just say
the biggest
Ulamog.
card.
That is 10 manas.
He's got all 3 of the metals. So Ulamog is the biggest one. It's 10. All is Dust at 7. I think that's like the second biggest card we see in Legacy.
We could have seen hand play a Walking Ballista for way more than 10 that game.
All right. Actually, I guess second place goes to Craterhoof Behemoth at 8. And then Walking Ballista, and then All is Dust gets the bronze.
Wait.
Like biggest CMC Legacy.
Blazing Archon is 9.
No.
Emrakul the Aeon's Torrent is 15.
I want something you actually cast. You gotta cast
Emrakul
it.
the Promised End is 13.
You have to be a deck to like act. What deck are we playing now?
Eldrazi Post. I promise
this one doesn't. He's playing it. He doesn't have them. Whatever. It's still
he
the same deck.
It's
fine.
Behemoth either.
No. I'm just saying of the whole podium of like biggest spells in Legacy, this deck's just kicking butt.
Look, Promised End comes sometimes, and even then it's in Post. Metalworker has Blightsteel Colossus.
Ooh. Sorcerer Spyglass back in. Get your choice of fetch lands or engineer explosives or Stoneforge Mystic. We'll see what hand picks.
Right, and one of the nice things here is ideally, he won't feel priced into being as greedy as he was game 1, where he kind of went for the Scalding Tarn, hoped he would get to, quote-unquote, just get fear, and he gets to check Stoneforge Mystic and Jace the Mind Sculptor now.
Batterskull was the pick. Makes sense. It's always hard to play that card against a Brainstorm deck, because if you Spyglass something, they will just brainstorm it away.
Yep, and The idea here is you're just trying to check very specific cards if you think you can answer things like Stoneforge Mystic.
How about Chalice of the Void? Did you see the nice land that Dylan is using to cast all these great cards?
Oh,
How
Eldrazi
fair.
Temple.
Yeah. No, he actually hasn't tapped. He hasn't used that one yet to cast cards. Now, interestingly, he knew about engineered explosives and put Chalice of the Void on 1 into it.
Right, this is kind of a thing where you just want Fear to go ahead and activate the engineered explosives, because if you put it on 0, you're only answering Harlan's 1 engineered explosives anyway, but this forces Harlan to actually sink the mana into doing it.
Now, Harlan does get a chance to cast Back to Basics here. Dylan's lands are untapped for now, but the difficulty is that he actually hasn't gotten a Cloud Post into play, and Cloud Post enters the battlefield tapped. So, some awkwardness.
Right, this is a spot where, Hand had to keep this opener because it did have a couple of 2-drops. It was good against Daze, and it had some prison cards, but it looks like the top of his library hasn't been cooperating.
City of Traders from Dylan, up to 6, 7 mana, 8 for an Eldrazi.
That one doesn't untap anyway.
That's true.
2 Force of Wills hanging out in Fear's hand.
That's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, this is a point where the advantage meter is pretty far in Fear's side of the table.
We did see Kevin Jones not finding success with Azorius Delver. Harlan Fear, though, same 75. May be able to get the job done. It's looking like it here in Game 3.
Right, and this is just kind of an example where the post deck needs a few more things to be going right, whereas Jim's deck was pretty similar to what was going on, but the cards were a little bigger.
I mean, sideboards matter, right? Harlan